We're going to start out with community comments, so please keep it to 2 minutes, and please announce who you are and where you're from. So this will be on any non-agendized item.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I'm Tracy Costin, and I just wanted to let everyone know that I went to the Santa Clarita Water Board meeting with Jackie and Mr. Laird, and I also went with Angie. So I've been to 2, and that has to do with Measure W. And I just wanted to let you know that that is the meeting with the committee that doesn't have Acton representation. So it's the Measure W that was passed, and I believe that there's 16 members, and most of them are public works employees or have some kind of affiliation. They were appointed somehow by the supervisor's office. And there was some question because our representative for our area, I believe, lives in San Marino, and he holds 3 seats. So there's municipal seats and there's community seats, and I'm not sure how that works. So I went to 2 meetings, and the first thing I noticed was their meeting room is set up like a U table. So the board members, the main board members' backs are to the audience. So that I noticed right away, and that was annoying because they're speaking and then, you know, they're presenting everything amongst themselves and then you're sitting behind them. And so I didn't like that. And then come to find out that there is an alternate from Agudulce, Mary Johnson, who was appointed as an alternate. I believe she's an alternate for someone as a community member. And so I just think that if she's going to be the closest to representing, that maybe we can ask her to address our town council and give us updates. That would be nice. But what I did notice was there's a lot of money being spent, our tax dollars, and that we're never going to take part, basically. So I think I'll give a more detailed report, but I was really disappointed. And I sent Supervisor Barger an email saying just a little paragraph on how disappointed I was on the lack of representation. How do they appoint people? What's the criteria? Why does one person get 3 votes? That doesn't seem right. And I got a response on Friday from Matt Frary, who I believe works in her PR department or correspondence, public works. And he told me that I should be happy that Jackie Eyre was there. And I said, well, Jackie Eyre was in the audience. She doesn't have an official capacity, but yeah, I'm happy she's there because she asks questions. And when she asks questions, people tend to listen. And then he said, oh, Mary Johnson's there. And I said, well, Mary Johnson's Agudulce, and we're Acton. And, you know, I mean, it's great, but Mary Johnson didn't really ask any questions the whole time I was there, throughout the whole meeting. I was disappointed. She didn't ask any questions, didn't raise her hand. So I haven't quite responded to him yet. I just got his email on Friday, but I will copy you on it. And again, I'm going to ask, what's the criteria? I don't believe one person can hold 3 seats. And this is a big deal because it's our tax money. And it's a huge deal. So Jackie can tell you more.
Well, I appreciate you bringing this up. Yeah, and if you could just hang out a second. There's another meeting on
Wednesday.
the 6th.
Thursday.
I think it's Thursday. Hold on, I got my old analog planner. Last meeting, Thursday the 6th, 10 to 12, Santa Clarita City Hall. This meeting is where they're getting the presentation on the proposed monitoring program. And of all the programs projects that have been proposed, the monitoring one is the most worrisome to me. And I've gone through it on their website, and there's almost no data on it. Now, I've done a lot of environmental sampling in my day, I mean, a lot, and you have to be very careful how you collect data, how you use the data, and how you decide what the impacts of your monitoring results are. And if the data is not collected, and this community has for several years now been told time and again by Public Works, Regional Planning, and Public Health that the community of Acton is responsible for contaminating the Santa Clara River. And those statements, when you finally drill down to it, those statements are all made based on water monitoring data collected 30 miles away, downstream of all of the city of Santa Clarita development, and of course downstream of all the campgrounds that have their septic systems in the floodplain and all those things. So I'm hoping, I don't know if you'll be able to go, Tracy, or if anyone else from the community can go up to this meeting coming up, but they want to sample for coliform bacteria, which the Santa Clara River is considered an impaired body up to about the Lang gauging station, which is just west of or Agua Dulce Canyon Road comes in and hits Soledad. So, but they all suspect that, it's all coming from our septic systems up here. So their goal, a goal of a number of organizations and agencies is to basically connect the dots between Acton causing all the problems in Santa Clara River pollution. So the monitoring program that they're going to talk about, that the WASC is going to decide on, it's not like the other programs that have been proposed. The other programs we've heard about, all the committee did was say, oh yes, we approve it to go to the scoring committee, then we'll make a final decision later. Monitoring's not like that. If they give a thumbs up on the monitoring, it goes straight to the board for approval. And so if you can't go to any other meeting, please come to this one and learn about what they're talking about in the monitoring. So it'll have huge impacts on our community. And my goal is to not have Acton be impacted the way the Lakes area has been impacted, where they decided all the nitrate level in the Munns Lake, Lake Elizabeth, and Lake Hughes, which are 99.999% attributed to the fact that the Forest Service stocked it with their sag ponds with fish for 50 years. And those numbers are actually from Water Quality Control Board's report. I'm not just saying 4 nines for no reason. That's exactly what they said. And that the on-site, the waste treatment system, because they do have a waste treatment system, is like 0.001%. Yet, everybody with a septic system has to go in and retrofit all of their septic systems, 40 grand each, because the monitoring entity decided that they are responsible for the contamination in the lake. I don't want that to happen to Acton if somebody collects data. He's not the guy he's proposing doesn't seem to be an agency. He's just some sort of nonprofit that wants to determine where all the coliform's coming from in the river. And a little bit of data collected improperly can be a very dangerous thing. So at any rate, that's why I'm watching this like hot. Yeah.
Jackie, have they revealed what the data collection looks like and the attribute series and all that, or is this just we'll collect it and then extrapolate it into what we need it to be?
All they're saying is we're going to collect some data. There's almost no information on their test.
To what the data set looks like and what the ratings are.
Yeah, or where they're going to collect it, how they're going to do source.
What the protocol is
Yeah.
for collection.
So, when I do, and I run big crew chief, I've been a crew chief, I mean, you run big sampling, Coors and big companies, American National Can, you got 15 people there, and it's a, $2 million test. I have a quality assurance project plan, I have data quality objectives, I assess accuracy, precision, representativeness. I mean, it's a whole, the quality assurance plan itself is an inch thick.
Has anyone asked for that plan ahead of the data collection?
Since what they proposed is very vague, we want to do coliform bacteria sampling in the river. Well, I mean, it's not.
Somewhere between here and there. I mean, like, this is crazy.
I'm going to ask for the QAP. I'm going to ask for the DQs. I'm going to ask for all those things. And then I'm going to ask, I want to see ahead of time how you're planning on taking that data and establishing source characterization based on it, and how you're going to be confident that what you're saying about the source is actually accurate, because we already know that this town has been told over and over, based on data collected 30 miles away, that we are responsible for significant contamination in the Santa Clara River.
And this is Wednesday morning.
Thursday morning.
At 6:30 City Hall.
So the person who's proposing is going to be giving a presentation to the WASC, the Watershed, Santa Clara River Watershed Steering Committee. That's what it's called, the WASC meeting. And then they're going to either give a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or ask for more data. So I'm there to make sure that, you know, at least they ask for more data. So I don't know what's in it. There's very little. So he'll give a presentation, he or she, I don't know who they are. And then we can ask questions.
Yeah, well, I mean, not to divert, but it's one of those things too, that there's been lots of homeless folks in the wash, 30 miles downstream. So you could have contamination, you could have somebody floating 10 miles, 100 feet from where they're collecting, all of a sudden now everybody gets blamed because there's.
Or golly gee, what about all the illegal dumping?
Yeah.
And the drums of, we
Yeah.
don't know what have been put in the riverbed, over the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years maybe. So I really appreciate you coming to these meetings and bringing this up, because local representation is really important. And when I went to the last meeting, I saw Mary there, I was surprised. I said, hey, Mary, or no, it was the 2 meetings before. And she said that she was sitting in for Mr. Crawford. So then I asked her at the last meeting, are you who your alternate is? She goes, well, I am the alternate for Mr. Crawford. So according to her, what she told me, she's not actually on the committee. She's the alternate for Mr. Crawford, who's a city Santa Clarita resident. So it's a little bit murky, but at least we have her. So I think you're right. We should ask her to.
So that's Mary Johnson.
Yes. Yeah, I think we should ask her to let us know what's going on. And we usually carpool down, so I usually meet here at the library at 9:15, if anybody wants to join.
So Kelly's not here, am I doing the notes
Oh,
tonight?
we haven't even gotten that far yet, but is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Good. Any other community comments?
I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Which actually, that's going to sound kind of dumb, but do you think that there is some reason that perhaps sewers are going to try to be incorporated into Acton? Do you think this has anything to do with that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it
hope not,
has
because
more to do
in
with.
the back of my mind, it's kind of been bugging me, thinking that, we don't have sewers. Maybe somebody wants sewers in town. Maybe there's a family member with a big business. I'm sorry, it's just the way I think.
No, it's fine.
Just a thought, just a thought.
At this point, anything's possible because.
Or somebody that runs these septic tanks that cost 40 grand for treatment system.
Yeah.
The retrofitting. I mean, that's another side.
Okay,
It also.
just a question.
It also.
I think it's a valid question.
Given how onerous development standards have become in the last 20 years here, and how there are very few homes that have been built, and given that, I've had biologists from Fish and Wildlife tell me straight to my face, we shouldn't be living here, we need to be in cities, we need to build up, we can't build out. I would think it wouldn't be sewers, I think it would be, we just shouldn't be here. So that's.
Well, I'm always thinking about who can make a buck on us.
Oh,
We're
well,
here
there's
for a
that,
reason.
I think it's
Who can make a buck?
definitely a valid question.
Excuse me, to that point, I think when developments are proposed and there's samples taken and there's CEQA to deal with, I think it's a lot easier to establish a baseline of this was already this way, so I shouldn't have to worry so much about mitigating the issue through my development plan.
Well, that's true, except for, I understand and I agree with what you're saying, except for the last two, the first project we saw presented, Tracy was there, I was looking around for Tracy. It was a big stormwater capture system from this whole area that they claimed was open space. Well, it's open space now, but it's zoned for huge industrial development and high-density residential. And by law, they are supposed to have their own stormwater capture. So I asked the question, is our tax money going into building the stormwater capture that now these developers won't have to put theirs in because we're doing it for them? And they didn't answer that question. They said, well,
That's a
it
yes.
depends. Yes, so to your point, I don't think that developers, you know, when they cause stormwater volumes increase with a lot of concrete and impervious surface. So when you cover up bare land, you cause a lot of stormwater runoff issues. And developers are by law required to address those. So I don't think, I'm disturbed by the idea of a project being even partly paid for. The first project was $19 million, and of which they're going to be asking $3 million a year probably for the next 4 or 5 years, and the rest will come out of the city of Santa Clarita. But even any bit of it going to defray the cost of a developer is troublesome to me, because that's our tax money.
Yeah.
So,
Of which we don't have any representation,
Well-
and helping guide where it goes, yes. Okay, thank you.
How much does it cost to have a survey done right close to us?
well, when Kirk Allen was here to talk about Measure W implementation, it was the same day as the Edison meeting. So and we had asked Mr. Allen to come like 2 months earlier, and then Edison, the PSGS thing we just had to put together. But he said, I asked him specifically, is there any way you could come up with a cookie cutter approach so that in a general area, all of the residences in Acton, in an area, say the alluvial area or the hillside area, whatever, could have sort of a general approach for putting in their own bioswale, and then once you've put in your bioswale, then you could apply for, just 1 second, then you can apply for a reduction in your taxes down to like 80 or 90%. So your Measure W fees, some of which people pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars every year, will be reduced by 90% or so. So I asked Kirk if we could just have a cookie cutter approach for that sort of thing. And he said, no, every single one has to be designed and engineered and stamped. And I think those, I'm not a civil engineer, but when we had our hydrology and hydraulic study done for our house, it was several $1,000s. So it's really not fiscally conducive to that.
What I'm saying is $40,000 a person is really high.
No, that's on the, okay, that's on the septic. If they, okay, that's for monitoring. This, even if you get out of Measure W by putting in a bioswale and showing them that it's engineered, if they collect enough sample data and they conclude from that data that our septic systems are causing problems in the river, we'd have to retrofit our septic anyway. That's what's going on.
I understand, but if they are not going to do the survey for coliform bacteria near Acton or Padulce or whatever, closer to us, then maybe it's worth for us to invest some money in that instead of $40,000 retrofitting.
Oh, you mean to have our own?
To have an own study,
Or
yeah, yeah, then we
survey.
can combat any findings saying, hey, we did the same study, it shows we're good. Yeah.
Well, I agree, but it would have to be done, we'd have to, it's a very, you have to be very careful about it. Because you don't know what
The
it's.
same guy was doing the survey in 30 miles from here.
Well, that would be the
Non-
county.
Yeah,
It might be the
non-profit
state,
organization
yeah,
that is approved by the county, they
Yeah.
cannot argue that.
yeah,
Which is the point of understanding the attribute series of studies so you can replicate it.
exactly. And you have confidence in saying, oh, it's Jackie's septic system that's causing all the problems.
I knew that the entire time.
Yes. Mea culpa.
All right.
Just
Is there
kidding.
any other public comment before you close this section out?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
My name's Nick Vitale, resident of Acton for 33 years. Recently in our neighborhood, I live pretty close into town off of Gillespie. We've recently had a change of ownership in the resident next door to me. That's really kind of gotten our neighborhood a little concerned. We've had, well, let's say the 33 years of being in Acton, our streets never really seen a police car, ambulance, all that, maybe once or twice. But now with the new neighbor next door to me, which we're all concerned about, it's been purchased by an LLC, and The house was vacant for about 2 years. They refurbished it in regards to making it wheelchair safe, access in all rooms in the back, from each room for access. And we were told that it was for autistic people. Well, it was vacant for some time. Now we've got residency, is what you would call it, I guess. In and out quite frequently. They don't seem to be autistic. They don't seem to really need care. But we've had several incidences within the last 6 months where it entails the sheriffs to come out. And to me, and maybe to others also, which it doesn't seem to be a care facility for mentally disabled. The other night on the 27th, Monday, at about, my wife and I come home 7-ish. Well, driving up our street, here's 6 sheriff's cars, 2 ambulances blocking our street, again at this house. So of course we get through, we sneak through, because my house is right there. We stopped and asked the sheriff, what is going on? Well, we get the, it's a medical issue with your neighbor. Okay, interesting. Why you need 6 sheriff's cars and 2 ambulances again. So we drive up into the house, to my driveway, and I got to find out what's going on here. So I addressed one of the sheriffs, asked him just that, what's going on? Oh, well, they've had an incident here with one of the residents. Well, it's interesting enough because, yeah, this is a residential area. It's very quiet, family-orientated, beautiful area. Love Acton. So, sure enough, I'm going to residence. Well, there's really no true residents here. I mean, they're in and out and in and out. This is a single-family residence. This isn't to where you're doing an operation, business operations of some sort. Okay? So, I happened to talk to one of the ladies that came up, and she says, oh, well, I'm with the People's Help So-and-so Society. And I go, okay. What type of facility is this? She goes, oh, well, we help the care that need. I said, well, where are these people coming from? Facilities, she says. I go, what facilities are they? Because to me, honestly, it seems like it's a halfway house for inmates. It doesn't seem like it's any care for autistic or mentally disabled people. So she says, oh, go on our website, you can see what we're all about. Well, I'm sorry, I deal with websites quite a bit too, and they say what you want to say and see. But I want to address this to the council. We're on Gillespie at 4035 Gillespie. And recently, with the activity of the sheriffs coming, I mean, this is probably the 4th, 5th time we've had an incident at this house.
You're the last.
Well, this time we were told one of the residents was to commit suicide. So, this is the last thing we truly need in our neighborhood. It scares me. I think it's scaring the other neighbors. We have young children all throughout our neighborhood. Equestrian lovers. It's a beautiful neighborhood. Never had a problem until this facility became occupied to help I don't know who. So I wanted to address this to the council. I've tried to investigate it a little bit through the sheriff's department. got nowhere.
Do you remember the name of the website?
I do not.
Send an email with
Hey, sir, you can contact me, I can help you out.
Okay, it was tag 257.
No, I got the 27th call right here. They weren't lying to you, but I'm just saying, if you call the sheriff's station, you can call me directly, and I'll look into it more than they will, just so you know.
Okay, if I can get your name.
Yeah. It's kind of.
But it's scary. And for Acton, this isn't what our town's about. I mean, we love our town. We've been here for as many years as we have, and never really had this type of an issue. So,
Appreciate it.
Thank you for telling us about it.
Yes.
pardon me?
Thank you for sharing. And I know that, I believe, did you send an email earlier?
Yes.
Okay, if you can remember the website, send it, that would be great, if you happen to.
Okay. I just looked up the owner. Go ahead.
Can I also interject? I actually did talk to the company that bought the house.
Doing is allowed in the zoning code.
So,
The concern I have, though, is the changes they want to make to the zoning code will make all of that happen, unless we can pull it back from the brink, and we need help. We've done everything we can to let the world know about all the homelessness initiatives, all their plans for housing first, and so in the most recent letter, we said, you need to you can't just house the homeless, you need to do the higher and harder
well,
job of
and I
helping the
understand
homeless.
what you're saying. These are not homeless people.
It's all
If you were
captured.
to come and look at this house, they're living better than I am.
It's all captured under the same
Okay.
thing, is what I'm trying, I understand what you're
Oh,
saying.
man, it's just frustrating.
No,
This was never addressed to council before they implemented this in our
no.
neighborhood?
no.
We would have reached out to
Well,
them.
and
No,
know this,
I-
and
you
know
know.
this, we're not the first neighborhood. My understanding is there's numerous homes already placed throughout, well, Santa Clarita, but that's them. This is not a new thing. We just didn't know. We didn't know. We couldn't start fighting from the beginning.
Well, this is the first I've heard of that being enacted.
Oh, my
You
gosh.
tell me.
Oh,
It's right in the center of town, we're right on the
Well, I-
side.
Trust me, they didn't tell us either. Obviously, we would have reached out.
Well, you know, and it is kind of sad. You live next to us, you live.
It's no surprise that you don't get to be elected a mayor when you can't walk down the street without getting whatever on your shoes and there's tents everywhere. So the relaxation of the densities that Jackie's talking about, if you go out on Avenue A, B, and C out there, you're seeing increased numbers of people out there living in RVs that are very beat up and whatever. So in an effort to make it pretty down in LA so we can all get elected again, we have these deputy this and deputy that. I have to deal with it in the city I work for. And so it's a fancy way of relaxing things and taking people who are already disenfranchised and taking them from an area where there is county health support, county mental health support, health, just general stuff, and moving them out here into what used to be these RV parks that have these mysterious septic problems, relaxing everything out there. And this sounds like conspiracy theory, but you can watch it happening around you. Now, in the school district, what I'm looking for is mental health support, and behavioral support does not mean to me when the kid freaks out, you throw him in an ambulance with a straitjacket and then you call county health services. It's the county saying if you're going to be a participant in this exodus of people out of downtown LA, that you don't put them out here in some trailer court that gets 85 and 90 degrees in May with no services and no access to things. So what Jackie's talking about isn't targeted at the people that are disenfranchised, because we are all this far away from being one of those people tomorrow morning outside of the criminals. But at the same time, when Jackie goes to these meetings and says, what is going on? What are you doing? How is this all tied together? It's just odd that some people think there's some big conspiracy theory when in fact it's highly political motivation to get your streets clean. This is what I did for LA, and now they're up here. And here we are in the school district looking at, we got kids coming that are uneducated, undereducated, hungry, no place to live, lacking health services and lacking behavioral supports if they need them. So this is a big, big thing that is beyond one or two people moving in. There's an exodus going on.
I get that.
And I think it'll get much worse if we don't keep, if we.
Jackie, thank you for this, your participation, because all this is volunteer work on your part.
Can I ask you a question, sir? When did the house get sold off the top of your head? When did it?
2016, it was vacant for 2 years. They moved in late 2018.
And we were constantly
Hold on,
told
hold
they
on,
were having
hold on.
problems with, permits.
It
And
was
I kept
vacant for
asking.
2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, can I just address you, please?
sure.
Okay, so 2018, do you remember approximately when they moved in the
What
first?
month?
Approximately spring, summer, fall, when?
I see summer.
I say summer, fall.
So a year and a half, there's been some movement of people in and out
Yes, yes,
frequently.
yes.
And you
All
see,
hours of the night.
See, that's not a group home.
no, that's,
That doesn't meet the definition of group home, and so it's not allowed. So if Deputy Martinez, if you could help us figure out what the heck this thing is, and see if it really fits into the slot that's allowed under the
Right.
zoning code. Group home has got very tight definitions, they're licensed with the state, they have all of this stuff that they're supposed to do. So if they don't fall into that bucket, then they don't fall into your neighborhood, at least under the current regulations.
you have seen some activity at night where you know that someone new is moving in? Or explain to me how you,
It's interesting because they've got a van,
uh-huh,
but you barely ever see them move.
Like a medical, like a white
Like a
transport.
trans.
And treasurer's report?
exactly the same as last month, no income, no expenses, 698.05.
Oh, we're so rich.
Woo-hoo.
For the big bucks.
Is there a decimal point there?
698.05.
All right, Deputy Martinez.
All right. Got a few things today. And kind of on your guys' thing with the 6 deputies there, I can tell you right now, we have a lot of trainees, so in the county,
Good.
Oh, good.
it's no overtime, trust me. The training officer, like, monitors their trainee, so there's 2 cars out here, that's 4 cars, because there's 2 training officers and 2 trainees, then a sergeant for any call that's like a suicidal or a mentally ill person, and then your 5th car is gonna be your MET team. So that's your 6 cars. It seems like an overabundance of resources, but realistically, that's a normal response for that type of call. That's not anything crazy, anything like that. And unfortunately, the sheriff's department has become like the default, and this is not just in Acton, this is everywhere. For any group home, when anyone gets out of line or they can't, the caretakers kind of take like a zero liability kind of thing, and they call the sheriff's department almost everything. So there's a lot of the other group homes in Acton, and then I know of 2 of them. We don't get called very often, but when we do, it's anytime there's anything that's not the norm, we get automatically called even though there's no crime or no one needs to be taken to the hospital or anything, we just get called. And then we, get to know everybody really well. But like I said, I'll look into it. Lillian has all my contact information in the Country Journal and stuff like that. That's kind of what I'm here for. So I'm your resident deputy, so like stuff like this, I can spend all day tomorrow and looking into it, that kind of thing. So at the station, you might get like 5 minutes of looking into it. That's not the case.
I got a question real quick. Are those other group homes and that one, are they adults or are they just?
I don't know anything about that one because I haven't seen that one, but the other 2 are adults.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, they're really not that, like, they're not problems in the neighborhood. Like, they have problems inside the house, and we usually take it to 150, 150 kind of thing. I think we've taken a couple missing people because one of them likes to walk away and he's got SSI money and gets on buses and goes to Vegas to go gambling, and then goes with his missing person, so that kind of thing. But they're all adults, not kids. Finalized numbers from last year, this as we were going, we ended up having 5,031 calls total of observations, everything, and 117 arrests in Acton last year. So that was
I'm sorry, was that for the whole year?
Yeah, for the whole year.
For a whole year?
For a whole year.
Last year, 2019?
2019.
Okay, we haven't started on 20 yet.
You haven't started on 20 yet, exactly.
I'm just asking.
No, that's fine. So that was like the got it done, she turned those in. For this month, I started looking at them when we were sitting down. I already found a couple of errors, but it said that we have 2 Part 1 crimes. And I looked at the addresses of the Part 1 crimes. One for sure is in Agua Dulce, and the other one is not even listed on the individual addresses. So I don't even think there's
Maybe
any.
not.
There could be none. And then for the not Part 1 crimes, there was a total of 14, which is a 12% drop from last year. However, I found 3 mistakes where those were also in Agua Dulce, so it should be even lower than that.
Good.
So I'll give these to you, but it's probably gonna be, I found out from our crime analyst that even though she has the FBI number she turns in monthly, at the end of the year, she goes through them all one more time, fixes any mistakes, and then resubmits them for the end of the year, and that's that little, this one that's a little bit different. So, let's bring it. My other thing I kind of wanted to address, we had a threat assessment that kind of went up in arms last week, or 2 weeks ago, was it now? Last week?
It's been 2 weeks, yeah.
It's been 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I've addressed it with several of the parents and everything. There was a lot of concern. A lot of parents were angry because they didn't see the response or didn't get the clarification from the school that they thought they needed. And I kind of wanted to address it tonight because I wasn't able to address it in public forum. There's a lot of things that we can't say because of confidentiality. These are children that we're dealing with, so you can't talk specifics. What I can tell you is in general terms, kind of what the Sheriff's Department does on a threat assessment, as far as we take everyone serious and we do our thorough investigation, which includes searches of the house, social media, that kind of thing. Is there access? Is there credibility they can actually carry out any of the threats they're saying? We're in constant contact with not only the school board, but the administrators, anyone that we need to contact with. We follow up every lead that we have. And once the Sheriff's Department gives the all clear and say, hey, you know what, this isn't a credible threat, that gets disseminated out to the parents. That's not just saying willy-nilly, okay, nothing happened. We've done a thorough investigation that sometimes can take, all day into the next shift, to make sure that your children are safe, basically, before. If we think it is a credible threat, or we find evidence of it and don't find the person in question, then we're also going to let the school board know that. And if they make this decision to cancel school and all that, that decision is made there. So if we're not 100% sure that things aren't being addressed properly, or that there's still too many questions, and I saw a lot of stuff on Facebook. I had a lot of parents hitting me up on a lot of things. Almost everything that I saw on Facebook was wrong. Yeah, every single thing. We did not go searching kids' backpacks in the high desert last week. I saw that a couple times. There was a lot, without going now into specifics, almost every single thing there was gossip. So please understand that we're working on it. We had a school safety meeting today with some of the administrators, and we talked about transparency and how we can do a better job, be more transparent to the parents so you guys are confident about sending your kids to school without, violating any kind of ed code or any kind of confidentiality with the children. So it's a fine line, and obviously it's a learning process, and we're trying to do the best we can, but I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys, that it's not just, it is investigated. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes, and we have, at this district at least, a very good line of communication with all the administrators on this. So it's not, we're working together, and that's the best we can do for right now.
Can I comment on that real quick? Thing to keep in mind too is a lot of the deputies, CHP, law enforcement, we all have children that go to these schools, detectives, or whoever, not just here, anywhere. So may not, like Orlando was saying, it may not look like we're doing a lot or something, but it's really happening. People do get interested. The deputies take it, the detectives take it seriously. It's not like
Easily about 14 hours that day was spent making sure that my partner's previous day followed up every lead. Re-interviewed people. And, with confidence, we were, that's what we went with.
Nobody wants to be that,
Yeah.
that officer, deputy, detective that didn't do their job, quote unquote.
So, but I get it as parents, you want to know everything, but unfortunately, there's, we have to work within the rules of a lot of that stuff.
Did you follow up with the gal in Agua Dulce and helicopter deal?
Yeah, so she's gonna follow up with the Agua Dulce Council and have them, talk to her and everything and go that route, but I just figured.
Yeah, well, if she wants to call, if they,
Yeah.
it just has to be sort of, just as a person, not as.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Superintendent.
yes, superintendent. Sir.
Please go where deputy.
Wherever you
Yeah,
feel
that'd be
comfortable.
great.
Now you get the podium.
This is good. This is good right here. So I want to thank town council for scheduling on your agenda. I appreciate the opportunity to share. And President Jeremiah Owen, thank you, and Troy Piper, correct?
It's actually Peterson.
Peeper, thank you.
Peeper.
All right, so thank you, and Jackie Air, of course, and Pam Walters, so thank you for your time. What I did was, I see we're allotted 15 minutes on here, so I thought I'd do kind of a 5 to 10 minute, very quick sort of state of the district. And then just kind of open it up for questions and go from there. So I thought I'll just piggyback on Deputy Martinez. First of all, recognize our board member here too, our new president, Ken Falsgraf, who's been doing a great job of keeping us on track for those who've been to the board meetings. It's been great. We've broken some time records, so that's been really nice.
Awesome.
So with the safety piece, I want to thank the deputy's office because they've just been great to work with for our school administrators. And one of the things that is so difficult is you want to share information, but we can't, as Deputy Martinez said. And it's frustrating as a parent because you want to know if it's safe to send your child to school the next day. And so I make that all call the night before saying it is safe, but people want more information than that. They want to know, was the child apprehended? Are they going to return in 3 days, 5 days, not at all, 1 year, expulsion? We can't share any of those things. If we share any of those things, we're violating the rights of that student and family, and we're exposing the district to a really severe liability. The flip side of that is social media, because the story then becomes what people put out there. So if people put out that the district isn't doing anything, or they only did X or Y or Z, that could be inaccurate, but that can become the storyline. And it's really difficult to get ahead of that because we can't say anything to that. We can't even say that's not true, because if we say that's not true to X number of days, well, that leaves 4 other options, because if you know Ed Code, you can only suspend up to 5 days, so people can start trying to narrow it down by default. So it's our only answer for us is to say what our practices are, what we're working on, what safety practices we put in place. And I guess that's a good place to start for this group, because I haven't been here in quite some time, is we have a comprehensive school safety plan. It gets approved each year by the school board. We alter that plan based on the current state of affairs, so that plan now reflects response to some of the crises we see happening in different schools, the active shooters. We've had ALICE training for our teachers. That went very well. Every teacher's been through that, which is extremely important. I really commend the board for taking staff recommendations to implement the Raptor system, which is the one where you put your ID into the machine and it spits out a tag with your picture on it and says what part of campus you can go to. So that's been a tremendous piece. We're looking into things like, video monitoring. Where are cameras now? Could they be placed differently? Metal detectors, doorbell, the video doorbell program, buzzers. There's all sorts of things that are out there to purchase, and there's many, many marketers trying to take advantage, by the way, of this circumstance. So none of those things, by the way, get to the root of the problem, which I was talking about this morning with our parent PTSO group, which is student self-regulation. So until we start showing our students how to self-regulate and manage their own anger, manage their emotions, this is going to be there. And when you look at, there are certain characteristics that when you hear speakers talk about these things that have happened, there are certain commonalities to these issues that have arisen. But I can spend a long time on that, so I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on that. I want to commend our board for really doing just an excellent job on governance. In the past 2.5 years, they attended what's called Masters in Governance, which is a 40-hour training program offered by the California School Board Association. All of our board members went through that last year. And on top of that, we've done some facilitation with outside consultants on board workshops, giving up their own Saturdays. Much like you, they're volunteers. School boards around the state of California can get paid. There's a pay scale for school boards, and they can get health benefits. Our board members have chosen to never get any of those benefits or compensation, which kind of goes through their altruistic motivation to do the job they do. So I'm grateful to our board for that. Some of the things happening, so if you were here at the very beginning, we're just chatting, we had the Polar Plunge this past Saturday. So that was a big success, worked with our parent fundraising groups. It was spearheaded by our Boosters Club. And for the past couple months, they've been having fundraiser challenges at the school sites. And myself and 2 board members, Mike Fox, Brandon Roque, and our special education director, Tim Allison, all jumped in the lake. And then 1 parent volunteered to join us, so it's 5 of us, and went to Lake Arrowhead. And it's part of Rotary Club up at Lake Arrowhead. So I just know that from my previous work life at Lake Arrowhead, and we were the only one that came from down the hill, so it was kind of fun. Jackie was there. We had 26 people from Acton, which was probably the biggest showing of any one group, which was awesome. It's a 2-hour drive, through 138 to get there. This Thursday night at 6:30 is a talent show being kind of co-sponsored and facilitated by the music organization, the high school with Amy Ciceri. So it's a staff talent show if you'd like to come see. The funds goes towards our kids again and our parent programs. Staff is going to show off their talent, including myself. If you've ever heard me play trumpet, I'll apologize now. But it's for the kids, as we say. So, we're going to have our first annual parent volunteer luncheon this year. One of the things that I've been working on is trying to work with our parents to get them to understand kind of how PTA organizations work. We don't have a PTA per se here, but we have PTSO, PTO, boosters. But there's a whole governance structure at PTA that really works on leadership. And it's more than just bake sales and volunteering your time. There's a whole piece about governance and leadership and so on. And so we want to recognize our parents at least once a year by just letting them sit down for a change, thanking them for all the work they do. And so we're going to do that on April 7th. So we just want to, the other thing that's going to happen there is our first annual Stay Gold Senior Scholarship. So I'm using part of my superintendent's allocation to, well, those 2 different things, sorry. This was a donor. So we have a donor from one of our consultants that's donated $2,500. So it'll be $500 senior scholarships that students will be able to apply for, and we'll give those out at the luncheon, parent volunteer luncheon. The other piece that I was talking about was mini scholarships for teachers. So last year we had our first annual Stay Gold mini scholarships for teachers, where there are mini grants for teachers, where they write a proposal for a grant. They can get $500 last year. I think this year we're going to up it to $750. But they put a proposal together for a project for their classroom so they can get the materials. And that was successful last year, so we're doing that again. Just academically instruct, you okay, Ken?
Yeah.
Okay. Instructional wise, just to let you a couple things know going on with instruction is we're working on something called the California Reading Literature Project. And so all of our teachers went through 3 days of training at the beginning of this year. They're continuing that training through the year. They have one more day, and then a part 2 of that will take place next year. The other thing we're doing for instruction is partnering with a group called Computer User Education. So if there's any teachers, it's a huge organization. They put on a major conference every year, but the chief academic officer there, John Carippo, is going to partner with me to walk into classrooms. Teachers volunteer. He'll take over the class for 20 minutes. He has a whole thing he does on Edge of Protocols, which kind of is a field guide for teachers to give them really interactive tools and lessons to at all grade levels K-12. So that's the other thing. He's going to give us 5 days towards our school district. And then I met with the CEO of CUE last week at a conference, and she actually wants to use our district to gather data because she thinks that John and I have something potentially really beneficial for our students. Let's see. The last piece is I thought I'd touch a little bit on financials. So just to let you know, the district is in very good shape, which for our district, I always say is kind of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, we're required by the state to have a 3% reserve. If you're under 1,000 students, you have to have a 4% reserve. We have a 36% reserve, which is very healthy. But most of us know much of that reserve is based on the revenue stream that we receive from our charter organizations. So it's good that we have a healthy reserve, but we have to be very cautious knowing the landscape. We're dealing with charter laws and things that are trying to be pushed through and so on. And the volatility of charters just themselves, each of those organizations, we have to be careful with those funds. And then Mr. Falsgraf read out a letter from the county that he and I received, and we received one the year prior also, that we have to be cognizant to not just take those funds and put them into ongoing programs. And once you put them into ongoing, you have to, you continue to fund it, and so that can be problematic if those funds aren't going to be dependable in the out years. So I tried to just kind of hit different things a little bit. I guess the only one I didn't hit was personnel, so we're posting a couple positions. We have an assistant superintendent vacancy, so that's being posted, and we're looking to fill that. We have an interim principal at the middle school, Dave Armstrong, and if you have children or you'd like to meet him, he's a great guy. He's been here a couple years ago and helped out our schools then. Dr. Bice is at our district office, and she's helping us out through June, at which point she'll be leaving the district. She submitted her resignation some time ago. And I think that's it. Tess Toledo, she's our elementary school principal, just keeping her kind of in our thoughts and prayers as her son, who's in his 20s, and she's been very kind of public about this with the school. I don't think she'd mind me sharing, but very sudden onset of leukemia diagnosis.
Oh,
and he's only in his 20s, and he was in San Francisco, so she's been there for the last month, and we just kind of been going week by week. And bless her heart, she's always taking the most positive thing the doctor says, and kind of running with that, but it's a tough go. So anyhow, those are not to end on a downer note, but those are the things kind of happening in the district, and I'd be happy to take any questions or thoughts you have.
A couple things. This is actually for you. I was at the ARTC meeting, and I'll be reporting on this much later, so I know you don't want to probably stick around, but there's an organization called NAMI, the, hold on a second, sorry.
National Alliance.
Thank you, National Alliance on Mental Illness. And they are, I'm sorry, I had a freeze there for a second. And they made a presentation at the ARTC meeting they have a new campaign called Ending the Silence. And their goal is to kind of eliminate the stigma of mental illness. and they're going out to presentations. They have 3 types of presentations, one for students, one for staff, and one for families, geared towards, those audiences on how to, well, what some of the symptoms might be, give attendees ideas on how to help themselves, and they really want to reach out to communities and to school districts to see if they can make presentations, or to the community, or to teachers, or to, so this is for you.
Thank you.
And her card's on there, and
Perfect.
I have another pamphlet and a card for anyone on the town council who wants to look at it as well. Anyway, so I want to make sure you have that.
Thank you, Jackie.
And I have a question for you. It's
Sure.
something I raised at the board meeting during public comment, so now I can actually talk. But it does bother me that the California State School Funding Program, the way it's been set up, the payments per child that they make for the SPED children in the Antelope Valley is much lower than the payments per child they make anywhere else in the state. So we're paid less per child for SPED repayments from the state than elsewhere. And I know that the SELPA they launched, they've got a letter campaign going, but I haven't looked too much in detail into how far they've gone and what they've done, who they've reached out. It might have been extensive. And I know that Senator Wilk is involved, but it seems to me like we need to do, every resident of the Antelope Valley should be like up in arms about this, because it's our tax money, and our children are not being, our school districts are not being paid per child the same way they are any place else in the state by a substantial amount. That's my understanding. So I don't know if the school district has already weighed in on this with the state to try to, or our legislators, because in my mind, this is not a partisan issue. Both sides of the aisle should be really working to create equity everywhere in the state. That's the new word these days, yet we seem to have a lot of inequity in the Antelope Valley on a lot of things, this being one of them. So can you, I know you maybe can't speak to it right now, but can you tell us if that's something that you guys can work on, and maybe we can help too, the community can help?
Yeah, and I'd like to probably come back at least to you with more information, but the SELPA, so the superintendents, we have our own meeting for the SELPA, and we form a quorum. And we approve the budget, we approve the director that we essentially borrow their services from the county, from LACO. But my understanding was we got a little bit more this year than previous year.
We might have gotten more this year than previous year, but we still get less per child
Less
than
per
any
child,
other place.
yeah.
And this is something, as I understand it, and again, I'm just starting, so I'm not giving details because I haven't done a deep dive on it, and I have to do my research, but it has to be fixed by the legislature. So, and I've gone up to Sacramento, and I've gone into rooms, even people, it's amazing, if it's an issue like this, people who are not even your people will talk to you about it, because it's an equity issue. So, even doing something like that, and a lot of I've learned that a lot of legislators, a lot of elected officials like to hear about things like that because they don't know these things are happening.
Right.
And unless somebody brings it to their attention, they can't fix it. So we might have gotten more per child, but that's my understanding is that the amount per child we get is substantially less than the amount per child any place else.
Yeah, let me talk to Lynn, and maybe we can bring something back here. Like I said, at least she can share with you so that you can share it out. Yeah, we can follow up.
I did get those letters from their templates, which I didn't have at the meeting, but I will forward it to you tomorrow if I remember, which I make a note, so I should be able to remember, so.
Yeah.
Jackie,
Go ahead.
to this topic, first off, thank you for being involved in the CAC committee, because historically the district has not had a strong presence there, especially with somebody that's objective and understands legislative action and that type of thing. The unfortunate part of special education is they kind of go by incidents. So they call it low incidence, so you might see someone that has physical needs, medical stuff that affects their ability to learn. They need apparatus, they need gaze switches, they need things like that. But the more you get onto the, say for example, the autism spectrum and the number of people in an area that have it, it's actually considered a higher incidence, which makes the funding go down. So the number of people in the Antelope Valley that are affected by things, as the number goes up, the incidence percentage goes up and the funding tends to go down. So it's actually a counterproductive system, to your point.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, I mean, the whole,
I'm glad you're there,
it just
and I'm
needs
glad
to-
Heather is there, and I'm glad everybody that participates on behalf of the district there, because we have a meaningful representation this year. Thank you.
So I understand you said that you have about 34% reserve and your minimum is 4%. And I understand that you have additional liability with charter school, etc. But why don't you go maybe just number 20% reserve and with the rest of the 14% do something more experimental? For example, how to, new ideas, how to improve STEM, the science and technology
Yes, yeah.
stuff, for example, or some programs toward the highly performing students, because a lot of the low performing student gets a lot of attention, but the high performing student may need more than what you give them. I bring academicians from the university around that may be able to come with a new idea, experiment, not something operational,
Right.
some idea that in the future you may want to implement in your schools.
So no, it's a great point. So a couple of things. First off, we have 36% this year, but then you have to go in the out years, you have to show 3% out in year 3. And so we're still over the 3%, we're over the 4%, but it goes down by roughly 9% a year for us. And one of the reasons for that is because of declining enrollment. So your point's still valid. We are going to have a budget workshop study this month, maybe the early March, but that whole idea is to discuss exactly what you're saying. So staff will come in with some thoughts and recommendations, show all the numbers, and then ultimately it's the board that says, you know, for one-time expenditures, not ongoing expenditures, we'd like to do something like what you're talking about, or we'd like to redo the middle school field, or we'd like to, do something at the elementary school facilities. So yes, we're not going to just completely leave the money sitting there, but we will leave a good part of it just because of the volatility piece with the charters. And then the other thing you reminded me of, what was it? I gotta remember. It'll come back to me. But you made another.
STEM.
Well, STEM for sure is really important for all of our students.
Right.
And for those who don't know what that is, it's science, technology, also called STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And by integrating all those things into projects for students like robotics, you can really tap on students' ingenuity and innovativeness and motivation, because a lot of students get motivated by those things. So, yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I didn't catch the name of the program that the teachers went to for the safety.
Alice training.
Okay. And basically just briefly,
Sure.
what did it teach?
So Alice
Our
training
teachers.
talked about, if you've heard of the run, hide, and fight, kind of was a half a day of training just spent on talking about what does that look like, and you can't paint out every scenario that comes up. And one of the things that law enforcement will tell you is no matter how much training you do, somebody's going to come up with something new or different. Your school's designed differently. So it's not exactly a science when you're training for these things. And parents have been asking for drills. We are working on doing the drills too, but one of the things with the drills is we're working with a third-party administrator through our insurance company, and it's the same one that did the training out in Saugus. So they do a good training program. But the first step in that is an anonymous day just to see where your gaps are in your safety. So you don't know when somebody's coming out, they walk all your sites, identify all of the gaps in your safety as they see it, not looking at your plan, but when they walk on campus, are there open gates that they can walk in? If they hop a fence and get on the playground, how long can they walk around without somebody saying anything? Can they get through the office and go by the Raptor system where nobody's gonna ID them? So that's the first step. Once we do that, then we'll do age level appropriate drills with the students. And the drills gotta be done very carefully too, because there's been issues where they've done the drills like with popping sounds and whatnot. That's very traumatic for students these days, because you don't necessarily have to have a completely realistic, authentic situation for students to understand, here's the path we're gonna go down if we need to, or here's the escape route. And that sort of thing.
I'm one of those annoying parents who's been asking for training, and you know that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask again,
Yeah, yeah,
in the high school, please.
yes.
So
And
we've
every
been
te-
discussing this. Charles Boswick is kind of like heading a lot of the safety plan meetings. We had one today.
Right.
We've walked all the sites, and for as far as what law enforcement and what they see, because they're walking through the campus, what we see is gaps we're trying to fix and try to think like what would be the worst case scenarios. And we walk through all the sites and try to improve from last year. So this year's safety plan's already changed from some of the stuff that we addressed from last year. We've talked about different things for the younger students as far as like maybe a video versus like a whole drill, so it'd be less traumatic and something where they don't have to see a lot of things and at least get some sort of understanding what to do. As far as the ALICE training, if the Sheriff's Department were to test them, we've talked about that with some of the resource officers, school resource officers at Palm, because they actually have like true SROs. They go through the whole course and stuff like that, and they're fine with helping us out as a district. It's more geared towards the teachers and the students is to make sure they implement the ALICE training correctly, and they're doing what their kind of the protocols are. It's not going to be public as much as you'd like it to be, because once again, we don't want to reveal tactics. Just like we wouldn't want like us to do a full-on scale training. Like when we did it at Highland High School, we had several. We had Lancaster, Palmville. Everyone did this active shooter training before the Highland, before the whole incident occurred. But we weren't like broadcasting like, hey, this is what we found out. This is how we did approaches. This is the resources we use, because we kind of hold on to that, because we don't want that out there. Because any plan, you give someone enough time and understand the details of it, they're going to find holes in it.
But you do give enough information for a child to know what to do.
Yes, the child will know basic instructions, but I'm saying as far as like what resources are available, what would be like the law enforcement response, or what the teachers are supposed to do or not do, or whatever, that is what we're kind of guarding a little bit more. And we've been talking about different ways to implement the training this year and stuff, and so.
I think it's awesome that all of the teachers in our district, if I'm understanding you, have participated in this training. So that should make some parents feel a little more comfortable.
It should. It's hard because, I think especially in a small town where the services are a little bit more remote, people, understandably so, get a little bit more concerned. So.
Yep.
And then there are people in this town whose kids go to Saugus High School.
Right.
So, I mean, there's some
they've
real
had
attachment.
Yeah, our neighbors go there, so.
Guys, while he's up here, I kind of wanted to share a little bit about something that he can't control. As the board president, I have two initiatives this year. One of them is civility and organizational efficiency. I come from an agency where I'm nearly 2 decades in that has a very high customer service culture and social health in his first 2 years here. And then now what we're seeing is, and I don't typically see this model in PTO and Booster and PTSO, but you're seeing those meetings become more organized where they have something called Know Your District. So you'll have someone come in and talk about district finance. The deputy came in and talked to 2 of the groups about what campus safety looks like, walk the campus. You've got Jackie coming in talking about what she's done for the community. So as part of that meeting, you have the core group of parents and anybody that wants to come to the meeting. The superintendent is there, the site principal is there, and if there are accountability issues or program deficiencies that they think they want to share, they can do that in an open environment with the site principal. And then the site principals know that 2 weeks later, those presidents of those organizations, Mr. King allows them access to meet with him monthly, so there's a follow-up to close the loop on any serious, what people think are service failings. I've not known a superintendent, especially in this area, or anyone that's led the district in this area that gives people that kind of access. So congratulations on him. I'm not easy to work for. I have very unrealistic expectations of service. Thank you, City of Beverly Hills, for instilling them in me. So Larry, can we give him a hand for what he does?
I am going to go because
It's all good.
I'm preparing for, the other thing we've started that we haven't had in the district for some time is admin training. So not just for our teachers, but 4 times a year I'm meeting with administration. I used to meet with cabinet and combine the professional development with it, but per their feedback to me last year, they wanted it separate so they could be on their campuses as much as possible. So we have a book read we do activities, we just try to kind of keep that culture, reading a book called The Mind of a Compassionate Leader, which is very interesting if you haven't heard of it, but it's a great book. And anyhow, so that's what we're working on for tomorrow, but I have to get ready for it. So,
No problem.
So thank you so
for
much.
coming.
Of course, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
No, there is no such thing.
it's a really short book. Jim?
It's a short Good night, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Sorry, Jim.
No, that's okay. All right, just a few quick announcements for the library. First, closures. It's Thursday, February 13th. It's an odd day to be closed. We will be closed for staff development training. So all the staff, full-time staff, get to drive down to beautiful Downey and spend the day down there. We'll reopen the next day just fine. And then also that following Monday, February 17th, for President's Day, we will be closed. Things going on in the library. Nice thing I want to make note of now. I mean, I haven't gotten my vote by mail ballot yet, but once you get yours, the Register Recorder has once again dropped off the vote by mail ballot box here at the library. So from now through Election Day, you could just walk in the library, drop off your mail-in ballot here at the library, Register Recorder will come and get it, and you're set.
Is this the polling place? Have they figured out the polling place?
Yes, I will.
So it's a funny story.
Oh, it's so much more funnier on my end. But yes, we will be one of the 4-day polling centers. So it'll be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of the election cycle. So what is that? The first, second, or
March.
no, I think it's February 29th.
29th, March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
3rd, yeah.
It's posted in the Country Journal.
Which means
I didn't
we
see
are
it.
unable
I'm
to
sorry.
have a meeting here on March 2nd, which is the final.
Oh,
Well, that's just one. I have so many
Yeah,
funny
but
parts on
there's
my
so much
side
more.
that make me
Oh,
cry.
But you guys have the following weekend, we can talk about it.
okay, vote. I didn't mean to.
Open that can of worms.
So you say, I'm just still, because I have to write it in my analog paper.
No,
It's the 29th, 1st,
Yeah.
2nd, and 3rd
correct.
at library.
Yeah. I think there's a couple voting centers in Acton and Agua Dulce, and I'm one of them. I think they're all the 4-day centers.
There's one at Lashem,
Lashem, that was, yeah.
and there's
Meadowlark.
one here,
Yeah, but
and there's one in Palmdale that's closed, and then there's one more.
I think Meadowlark.
Meadowlark.
You know, from Meadowlark School.
Meadowlark.
That's the fourth one. So I printed 4 that are closest, but you can go online to the county's site that I posted, and you can put in your name, and not your name, but your address or your cross streets, and it will give you everything within close proximity to you.
And my understanding is you're able to go to any vote center in the county and vote.
Yes.
But don't
You're so
quote me on that, quote the register recorder on that.
But how many times do you need to vote?
I'm just the library.
We'll come here, bite your tongue.
I'll come here.
Like Chicago.
I'm sorry, I can't.
I said, I'd like to know if you're gonna ask for ID.
That's a great question for the register recorder.
Oh, and I, yeah.
I'm just the
He's not
library.
ready.
I'm just letting them use
Oh, I
this room.
appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
They never have before, but maybe they'll start.
I don't see why they shouldn't.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's
They asked for ID down in Mexico.
Yeah.
that's something outside my realm of expertise / capabilities. But so you can do that, or if you have the when you get the ballot, I have the mail-in box here.
Okay.
Let's see here. Next thing, the Young People's Art Show is coming up again. If you remember from previous years, kids in grades K through 12, they can submit art with the local arts council. It gets hung up here in the meeting room, exhibited for the month, and then there's a reception at the end of the month. That'll be the end of March will be the reception. Deadline to apply to get your artwork in is on the 29th of February. The packets I have here at the library, or I believe you can get them from the Arts Council's website. Any questions on that? Oh. And then just a couple upcoming programs I'm going to highlight. We've got Michael McCarty coming in on Wednesday, February 5th, but is that the day after tomorrow? 3:30 to 4:30 he comes in. He has all kinds of tales from Africa and about Black history, and he's a great storyteller. So he will be here that afternoon. Other thing I'm going to plug, Saturday, February 15th from 2 to 4 p.m. I've got a road to job search success. We have a career coach coming in. She's going to talk about job hunting, do a little bit of work with your resumes. So if you're interested in that, or you know someone who is, hey, come by the library. It should be a great program. Very
All ages, or 18 up?
Yeah. Definitely. I'm sure there's a lot of 16, 17-year-olds could learn a lot. Otherwise, that's all I got.
Bird feeders, we're doing that?
You can come do that on Wednesday, February 12th, if you want to make a Valentine's Day bird feeder. We'll see you here. I expect you to bring it to the next town council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay, so, sometime in October or thereabouts, the Board of Supervisors directed the CEO's office to do a lot of outreach and come back with, within 6 months, a draft ordinance limiting single-use plastics. And I've tried really hard to set up a meeting with them to provide input, but I haven't been able to get it together. And I have to compliment the CEO's office. They have done a lot of outreach to us. A problem is, I've actually called several of our restaurants. I asked them, I spoke with the managers, or left messages for the managers, asked them to contact the town council if they have any concerns, because it's they're looking at things like clamshell containers, no plastics at all. So like, I guess bamboo forks, or I'm not exactly sure. There's no ordinance yet, so there's not,
Nothing to be upset about yet, because
well,
there's
yes,
nothing
but
to
we've asked them to give us the chance to put
Comment.
input
Yeah.
before the ordinance is written, which we haven't really had a chance to do, but I don't work in the food industry, so I don't know what sort of impediments there are, what sort of opportunities. They say these, God doesn't close a door without opening windows, so maybe this would be some opportunities for, I don't know, maybe there's other benefits than just not using plastic anymore that can come out of it. But I guess we haven't said anything to them, and they've asked us several times. It's not through lack of trying. I can't seem to get a meeting together, gelled. So what do we want to do? I've called all the fast food places, and like Sous Vide, I called just to find out, I haven't called La Cabana yet, but,
Well, they're in trouble already, don't they, let's see. La Cabana, zone change on the La Cabana. Hey,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't have to worry about it anymore.
yeah, they're, no, they're not in trouble, we're trying to help them out, it's all good. But, so, this is it's been a big deal in other areas, I mean,
So what's the stage of the draft ordinance right now, Jackie?
it's going to be, my understanding, okay, the schedule is they're supposed to present it to the board, the draft ordinance presented to the board, or maybe just planning commission, I'm not sure, in March sometime.
Okay.
My understanding is it hadn't been written yet, although I'm sure they're writing it right now.
Yeah.
So we're sort of, the window of time to comment is
Closing
closing. But it's not an area I have any expertise, and I don't have any time to get expertise on it, but
And it doesn't seem like there's any concern from the local businesses, at least at any level.
well, just because they don't call me back doesn't mean they aren't concerned about it, but I don't know what more to do. So that's why I wanted to put it here,
but,
and at least put it out there, tell us what you want us to say, or tell them yourself what you want to say.
But when you called, you said you were with the Acton Town Council.
Yes, I did.
So
Yes, I did.
I agree with.
I mean, as much as it pains me, because I have an opinion about it, but, you know,
Yeah.
if the businesses that this is going to directly impact, or, I mean, even residents, like, if you feel strongly that one way or the other, that would be great too, but we haven't really heard anything.
So none of the styrofoam containers from takeout or anything
Yeah,
would be able to be used?
that's,
In plastic.
it's
like,
plastic,
single
with
plastic, so like-
styrofoam, it would qualify,
Yeah,
sure.
or plastic bags, I mean, like,
You know,
you take out your food and you.
A lot of the clamshells now went from styrofoam, because that's because of the isocyanates, to plastic.
Right.
So now, but this ordinance can be whatever, or we can ask them whatever we want.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean they're gonna do it,
Because
but-
the other thing, I mean, lids on cups, I mean,
Yeah.
you get
Oh,
a
yeah,
cup
that's
from McDonald's, I mean, the cup's wax and paper, but the lids are.
So how did
wax.
we learn about this? We got.
They reached out to us,
Okay.
and I've been trying to get together, now I think with the point, it's gonna have to be a conference call. They've been willing to come up
Yeah.
here, but I ask, and like, I don't hear back from anybody being able to meet, so I don't know quite frankly what to do. I haven't contacted Don Chatas. I contacted mainly the ones that, use a lot.
That's their primary.
Although, pizza, I guess pizza places, they use cardboard, but they have those
The
little
little
plastic.
plastic stand things. you know?
And
Well, like I said-
people get food to go from Miso and from La Cabana and,
And again, cup lids, straws, I mean, there's all that kind of. The market.
oh, but the market was on my list to call, I never got around to calling, I just, there was.
I wonder if there would be just covered because they only sell the bags now and they're.
No, but they sell food to go, you
Sure.
can buy.
Yeah, both markets do.
Yeah.
And then they sell, they get those ready-made sandwiches that are in plastic containers. I mean, I don't know how far this thing's
Yeah,
gonna
or
go.
just saran wrap, I mean,
But how
like
do
you have a sandwich that's wrapped and.
Yeah,
Or.
but some places sell, you go to the fridge and you pull it out.
You would think as a business owner, they would be very
Yeah.
much interested in.
At least
But
knowing
maybe-
what.
But you know what,
Yeah.
when somebody just takes a message, who knows where it is?
No, yeah.
I don't know if it was translated. I would never, I don't mean translated in English, but I mean translated in like, I said, this is what I'm calling about, can you please tell them? It could have just been,
Somebody called-
ATC wants input or something, So I would never assume that them not sending us something means that they're not interested.
Engaged.
But I don't know what more to
Do
do
we
other
ever-
than announcing to please tell us what you want.
Do we ever reach out, like mailing something to the owner or?
We have in the past for.
I mean, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, except for that was like formal,
Oh, no, correct,
zoning
yeah,
stuff,
correct,
so
yeah.
I don't have time to do that sort of thing. So one could do
So it
that.
costs us postage.
Well, not that, but I mean, the windows, the window's like a couple, I mean, we're probably past the point of having a lot of influence on it, aside from at least from having the discussion. I think maybe having the discussion is important, at least we would get a pulse on what they're talking about, having it like, hey, what are some items that you're gonna like ixnay, or that you're
Right.
looking at killing?
Or maybe just ask, hey, can you just put it in restaurants that are fast food? And fast food is that which you pay for before you eat, rather than a sit-down establishment where you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah, or at least see what they're looking at. They might- What's your definition of, what are they defining as? Is it any place that sells edible items? I mean, I don't know.
they actually do have a definition for fast food.
Yeah, well, and then, I mean, we're trying to narrow it to that, but I'm saying, what are they looking at?
Right.
Are they saying, are grocery stores in the crosshairs, or, you know?
So would it
Yeah,
help
exactly.
if we went personally to some of these? I mean, I could go,
Probably, that would.
Yeah,
I
that's
just-
what I'm
not
wondering, I mean,
even-
even like as a letter, I mean, I can even do a couple door knocks, you know.
That's
I
probably
mean,
the
I
best
don't
thing.
have-
I don't mind doing that.
I don't have a problem doing that. I mean, I can go into the
Right.
market and go into the restaurants that I do business with so that I can.
And we can,
Well, then we'll probably
I
be
know
at
the
the same
manager.
places, because I see you.
we don't do it.
So, I think that we ought to try to get a conference call, because I think that, I know you've tried. No, it's not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
But I think maybe now,
Yeah,
it would be good, and then that way there's also, and maybe try to see if we can do it 2 weeks out or something, gives a little bit of time for folks to
yeah.
try to drum up, because I think if you told a business owner, we're not asking you to go somewhere, just pick up the phone and call in at this
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
That's a different ask than saying, come
Right.
downtown with us, take
Yeah.
time off your
Right,
day,
right,
whatever.
right.
you know.
Or give them the address and they can make their own comments.
Well, absolutely, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
give them some options, yeah.
I
But
think we're ahead of
Yeah.
Are you, is it the kind of thing where it would be helpful to either, take out an ad in the Country Journal and it's there and it kind of, goes for a few weeks and maybe you put it on the agenda, or you use Nextdoor, Shannon Valley, just use Nextdoor and put it in that it's happening and you have a date, and it's on the agenda and, maybe please come?
Well, I know we've had an agenda a couple times, because this is the second or third time we've.
I don't know.
Then you've done your job, that's it. Don't waste your time on.
We
people
always
don't-
go above and beyond the call of duty in this, on this. I mean, just look at our
Yeah.
9 years of high-speed rail,
Well, I
so.
think even
That's a
just
different
being,
story. It's affecting us specifically here, specifically.
Well, this,
This is nationwide, what we're talking about. And I went today to Rubio in Palmdale, I couldn't get a straw, there are no straws anymore. So it's coming voluntarily and involuntarily, it's coming here. So you've done your job, you did terrific.
yeah, but we're also consumers too, as you are, so it's,
Okay,
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. It does feel very inevitable, like it doesn't, Little Acton, 4 or 5 businesses right in isn't gonna sway opinion of something that they're basically have already decided what's
Right.
gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah, no, I completely, I know what you're saying.
business owners talk to other business owners too,
Sure, oh, yeah.
so it's not like, if somebody, I don't know, once they get aware they're busy, and if they're aware with a letter or a face-to-face, real quick.
Yeah.
And I could do something like that.
I don't think it's a too, if you guys are willing to do it, I think having just something that we can just hand out, and I can put on social media, and we can.
And I'll write up, it's just a little blurb with contact information. I can write that up and send it to both of you
But
tomorrow. Or
I think also what he's trying to say is, business owners need to take responsibility. I mean,
Absolutely.
you guys do 2,100 things. And this, I'm not saying this is low on the totem pole,
Jackie
but,
does 22.
okay, yeah, we all know. But, if they don't read the Country Journal and they don't, they don't come to the meetings and they don't go on social media and they don't talk to their neighbors, and what can you do? You've already beat this
But some of
around
them
quite a
are
bit,
also, I
so.
think, caught up so much probably, and I know when my dad owned a business, he was so much into that, he didn't have the opportunity to get out and do other
But they're
things.
busy
And you know
finding
what, the other
other-
thing is,
So-
I really think it's important for businesses to talk to the county, because I have a feeling all the outreach has been to the non-business owners, I'm just,
Right.
put it like that, so,
So the big corporation will intervene if they can. All this McDonald's and Wendy's.
Yeah.
and
they're all
I
franchises and
mean,
they're
the
individuals.
entire airport is only plastic, right?
Forget
Areas.
so Tracy's
Plastic.
removing us from responsibility. I just heard that.
Well, from this, I think you've
No,
done
I want
everything
it
you
all.
can.
Absolved fully.
I appreciate the sentiment, because like I said, I understand. It feels like we're going through the motions of saying that they're going to listen,
But at the same time, I agree, hearing from us, they hear about us from all the things. Time for, this,
Like
the people
Jack
actually have a vested
said,
interest.
We left a message, and we don't know how, if it even got
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
That's the
I
problem.
mean, it's kind of like everything we do.
Yeah.
We have to
do it
work
twice.
hard to make sure that we get the results that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the,
Okay,
I
I'll
don't
leave
the
it.
other
I'll
problem is,
resign.
because if the
You
county.
get my job, I'm good.
If the CEO's office is,
You
all
already have-
their outreach
you already
has
have half
been
of
to
me.
say Sierra Club.
Yes, they're only
And that's what
very
I think a lot
one-sided,
of
yeah.
it's been, because that is what our experience has been,
Yeah.
frankly. I mean, with everything.
Very targeted.
Okay, print it up, Jackie, I'll go
Yes.
try.
Tomorrow, I will do it. I'll email a PDF to you guys.
Sounds good. I'll start next week. Cool.
So do we need to have a,
Might get
we
free
still, do
food
you
if
want
I
to have,
go
shall
around.
we try to
I
give
think-
input on a phone, conference call, just us?
Yes,
to them?
I think that's worth doing. I will make time, I mean, the conference call is easier to chime in on. And
Yeah.
But seeing that we're missing a few folks, I mean, I would try to, let's shoot for 2 weeks out, and whoever can go, let's just have the call.
Okay,
Like,
so
I
I'll just
don't want to
ask-
delay, because
what I'm gonna
there's
do-
2 people on there, that it's just what it is.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is ask for, not this week, but sometime next week,
I think that's,
and ask them for a few days of times,
Yep.
and then
yes.
shoot it out to you guys, you tell me who can make
Yep,
it.
yep. And I think if we get 2 more people, that's enough. Let's just get that ball.
Yeah, I just can't be me.
Zone change on La Cabana property.
Okay.
Okay. You can put here, over there, wherever you want.
This is fine, that's too far, I got a foot too far to walk. Anyway, I have a question, kind of a curiosity. You and I talked about this some months ago, but
Could you real quick just identify yourself? And,
my name is Les Jundy, longtime Acton Aguadalci resident. And I own the La Cabana property that the restaurant's on. And by accident, going through the county records, I found out that my property had been rezoned from commercial to manufacturing. Like half the property in Acton has been done. So my question is, number one, can the county just do this without notifying property owners?
They aren't supposed to.
Number two, now that I'm not commercial anymore, are they going to come along and make me get a CUP to operate a commercial business on my now manufacturing property?
Okay, the correct answer is only the county can tell you that. But the answer I can give you is that it is true that there are only certain uses allowed on rural commercial and only certain uses allowed on M1 industrial, or what you call manufacturing. And there's not always overlap between the two. So depending on what you want to do, you may or may not be allowed to do it by right, which means just with the site plan, or you may have to go through a CUP process to do it. So I had done some research, and I had this map. The zoning in Acton as of 2010 shows that your property is definitely industrially zoned. I'm sorry, commercially zoned, right,
Yes, in
exactly.
2010 it was commercial.
Right here. And
Yes.
you had industrial zoning to the east and to the west. And then as far as I can tell, what happened is when the AV plant, so here's your property right there. And you had in commercial, the guy across the street, directly across from Santiago,
Yes.
Soledad had commercial.
Yes.
Caddy Corner had commercial, and north of him had commercial. And the odd thing is some of these went back to, went to ag. So they went from commercial to ag zone, which is a big, huge jump.
Huge jump.
And you went
Down
from
the
commercial to industrial, which has some substantial ramifications, And to tell you what you can do and can't do, I'm going to let the county do that, but there is a big difference. And as far as I can tell, this change happened, because I've got a few maps here with different dates and stuff. This change happened when the board adopted the Antelope Valley Area Plan in 2015. And I don't know why the zoning was changed. We did not, it was very important to me that that you understand and the community understand that we did not ask for any properties to have their zone changed. Except in one place where it was a CUPDP for the archery place, and they never built it, and it was completely surrounded by ag. And the county said, no, we're doing that anyway. So I have no idea why they did it, and it bothers me that they did it, because it didn't just change yours, but everybody else's. And so that's why I suggested, if you want, we can ask the county. The county they amend the general plan every now and then. They just did one a few months ago when they had to adjust the One Valley, One Vision plan and the AV plan boundary to be correct. They had some problems with it. So they clean the plan up every now and then. And so if we could ask them to put it back the way it was, if that's what you'd like.
Well, what I really want to know is, I guess, how does it affect my business there?
I'd have to look at the different uses, and so
well, generally you can use higher grade zoning for lower grade without any problem, but
maybe not with an alcohol.
But with a commercial
that would be
restaurant,
weird to have an alcohol permit at an industrial zone, so I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I can't imagine the county wanting anything more than getting control on everything, like a CUP, where I gotta go beg them to get permission to keep running a business that's been there since 1950.
Yeah, and I don't know if you now considered a non-conforming use that would have to sunset after some time without a
could be
CUP
all kinds of
and I'm not
ramifications.
comfortable answering that specific question, but the county, I can give you that contact information, and they can answer those questions for you, although you might have a hard time getting, a comprehensive answer out of them. Because what they want to do is they want to see, well, what do you want to do? Submit an application, then we'll tell you what you have to do, which obviously you don't want to do.
I don't want to do anything except have them explain to me how they could change my zoning without notifying me.
Or having a conversation about,
Or having a
we're gonna do
conversation
this,
about
or,
it.
yeah, or.
And then why would they?
And it's a little tiny piece.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's almost like a mistake
It's a mistake.
was made.
No way.
Now, I see you
Because they
have,
downzoned
on
across
your
the
map there, you
street.
have my lot in red, and then you have the lot just to the west of me in red. Now, in 2010, were those both commercial?
I think the lot to the west of you is blue.
Yeah, I think so.
The lot to the north,
Across the street.
yeah, see the lot just to the west of you.
No, this is my lot right here, this lot right here.
Oh, but on the other, no,
Yeah.
that was always red. On the other side of
This was
Soledad,
commercial?
on the north side
For
of
the
Soledad.
church. Isn't that where the
Yeah,
church is?
that's the north side, this is the west side. Anyway, this lot was always commercial just like mine was,
It's not anymore though.
but now it's manufacturing. And they change?
No, a lot of this went to ag.
No, this is manufacturing now because they put a storage yard for trucks on it.
Okay, no, that's here. That's here, on this corner here. So this is Soledad.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. See, I should get some glasses on.
A meeting to meet Supervisor Barger's new planning deputy on February 7th. The county is developing an ordinance to reduce, we already talked about single-use plastics, sorry. The Acton Community Presbyterian Church has announced its semi-annual Acton Cemetery cleanup effort on Saturday, May 16, 2020, anytime from 8 a.m. to noon. They've asked us to help get the word out and solicit volunteers. If any participants have weed whackers and associated safety goggles or sunglasses, please bring them and wear long sleeve shirts and pants. Brooms, rakes, work gloves, and sunscreen are also helpful in advice. And I've participated in this cleanup a couple of times, and it's a kind of fun thing. And it's really interesting to look at the tombstones. And
Is that the one on west of Crown Valley?
Yeah.
yes,
Maybe around Roberts Road?
yes, exactly. It's maintained by the Presbyterian Church. It was.
No, I was just saying, I have something to add to this, it's before this, but the E. Clampus Vitus, who placed the plaque down on the Presbyterian Church is plaquing the cemetery on February 22nd. So I got this directly from them. And they said the Acton Cemetery, 10 acres of rolling hills covered with native growth of juniper, sage, buckwheat, wildflowers in the spring, is located west of Crown Valley, northwest of town. John Deere and family arrived in Acton in 1885, purchased the land and built the first house in Acton. They participated in building the town, including brick making, and worked on the new school building. The Durans decided that the town needed a cemetery, so without any legal transaction, they announced the gift of 10 acres of land to the town of Acton for the Acton Cemetery. The cemetery is approximately 26 miles from San Cristobal. Anyway, at the conclusion of the dedication, community members, friends, clampers, widowers, and orphans are invited to the 49ers Saloon in Acton for libations and good eats. In addition, the 49ers Saloon will be officially recognized as a official ECV watering hole, which is their organization. So, anyway, so that is on the 22nd at 11 a.m.
I'm sorry, did you say the cemetery or the 49ers?
They're plaquing the cemetery, so they'll be putting a plaque there. So it'll be in their organization, it'll be officially recognized.
At 11 a.m.?
At 11
Okay.
a.m. on the 22nd.
Okay.
And that is the Play Church Chapter 2 and the Peterville Lebec Chapter up from up.
Okay.
Who's the president of that? Who sent you that? Is there a name associated with that?
Yeah, so Kent Copland sent this to me.
Kent Coughlin?
Kent Copland, C-O-P-L-E-N. Wow, don't know.
No, there was a couple of attorneys out of Lancaster that were involved, but that's been years ago.
Yeah, so it's great. I know that in my conversations with those folks that they were very interested because they primarily are looking to recognize areas, especially the gold rush roots, and Acton being a gold mining town. They're looking at doing some stuff, especially because it's Southern California and there's not a lot of stuff like there is up in Northern California. So anyway, just passing that on.
So they're gonna be putting a plaque at the cemetery?
At the
with that
cemetery.
Information on there, with your history or something?
Yeah, so basically, if you ever get a chance, down in front of the Presbyterian Church, the plaque there
Right.
has just a little brief history, and it's a plaque. And so usually what happens is it gets added to, ECV is a pretty big organization, and so it'll get added to their books. And so what's ECV? Eclampus vitus. So it's the joke is it's a drinking historical society or historical drinking society. So it's actually kind of a fascinating group of folks.
So you say don't come on duty, got it.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I've only gotten like 2 or 3 calls of hauntings.
2 or 3 calls what?
That's
Haunting.
2 or 3 more than I ever got, so you're good.
Yeah, no, about that, like the people that live nearby, weird things.
Just weird things.
Like, I don't know if this guy was like near my window or could have been the cemetery. I was like, what?
Well, this is the lore I have heard, and I don't know it's true, I haven't researched it, but when they were building the railroads, they would not allow the Chinese to be buried in the cemetery.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of
Random
burial
graves.
places. Is that true? Is that
No,
incorrect?
that's the same story that was told about the old Palmdale Cemetery at Essen, 20th East. That same story. In fact, the city of Palmdale paid a company to go out there with ground-penetrating radar to look for graves, but they didn't find any. There was also a story that when the nearest housing tract was built back in the 80s to the Palmdale Cemetery, that a body was unearthed, and the foreman just told his workers, throw them in the dumpster or something. So that's just a story. So yeah, they never found the bodies around the Palmdale one, but
maybe they're here.
that's a real thing. So it certainly
Lots
could
of
be
lore.
the Velvet Acting. Yeah.
Poltergeist acres.
Well, to tie into that, they do say a lot of
Isn't it
the Chinese
in her
elm
book?
that's kind of
Isn't
invasive
it Chinese
brought
buried
over.
here?
By
In
Jack
Heritage.
Carroll, because they said, this great plant grows well to shade. That's
Oh,
why
I
we have
didn't
it.
realize that.
And there's photos of Chinese workers in Acton.
Yes.
Yes.
In
Oh,
the
yes.
1870s or 1880s at the Joshua Pulp Mill that used to be the gold mill, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When did you say the cleanup?
Learn something.
It is May 16th,
May 16th.
anytime from 8 a.m. to noon.
Oh, no wonder I haven't heard from it
Oh.
about it yet. They usually
Well,
let
I
me know when they're having one.
I'm
And
sorry,
they
no.
just sent it, not the last.
Yeah, I tried to capture all the, I think I
No,
missed some.
this was sent directly to me.
Oh, okay.
But under the guise of, hey,
You.
get this out. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just read, Pam just gave me this. It's on the board meeting tomorrow, and it's in a revised agenda. Supporting the growth of the Los Angeles film and digital media industry recommendations and action plan. They're looking for support from any, quote, even any other relevant county departments to implement the 5-point county plan, but they don't define what it is. But it seems to be mainly like women's and girls, internships, career pathway programs, and high road employment training partners. I don't know what that means. I guess we're the low road here next, I don't know. So I'm not sure. Third Saturday of every month, that on the first and third Saturday of every month, there's an e-waste and hazardous materials waste collection at the Palmdale landfill from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. There will be opportunities to dispose of old mattresses at various locations in the Antelope Valley on February 8th, February 15th, March 21st, and the 28th. The closest location to Acton is the Little Rock event on March 21 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Road Yard number 558, located at 8505 East Avenue T. If you want to know more information, email the town council and we can send out. We got a lot of flyers and I just didn't have time to
The
put
mattress
those.
stuff is in the journal.
Oh, is it?
Dates and places.
Yes.
At the North County Transportation Coalition meeting on January 27th, High Speed Rail announced that the draft EIR for the Palmdale Burbank segment will now not be released until October or November. In the flyer that they put out in November, it was to be released in February. So that's why we put our group together and started rolling forward on that. The next Santa Clara River WASC meeting is on Thursday.
I just want to add that I don't believe them, so.
Yeah. So Pam wants to
So
still meet.
I'm going forward as if it wasn't announced because
Oh, yeah.
the person that Jackie talked to also has told us fabrications in the past about the high-speed rail, so I'm going forward with what we're working on, just
Yes,
so we can
so we
be.
have a meeting.
Is there a
early.
scheduled get-together this week?
Yeah,
Yeah.
5th at 5:30 at Perkinock.
Yeah,
I won't,
February 5th.
I won't be able to make that.
Okay.
That's okay, we're gonna keep going.
You can give me Cliff Notes.
Waterworks District 37 has agreed to meet with us about our concerns regarding water usage. The meeting is slated for February 25th. Took a long time to get that going, way out. But
Yeah.
they would like a list of questions and we have to set up a meeting location. We can talk about what we want to ask of utilities if you want.
Yep.
We were contacted by Xochitl Ramos of the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians. It's a tribe. They are seeking federal recognition status, and the Office of Federal Acknowledgement will be issuing a proposed finding on or before March 12th. March 12th. They have asked that we meet with their tribal elders and are seeking support for their petition for recognition. I have not responded, but note that it is our policy to not meet with project proponents behind closed doors. So we can meet, at a meeting, obviously. However, their time frame is pretty short, and I don't think it can be accommodated by our March 2nd meeting, which isn't happening anyway. So we could agendize a special meeting if that's what the town council wants to do.
So, I think the plan, what's the date? Was to see if we could have one on the 9th. So, I mean,
That
I know
might be
it's,
too late.
yeah, it might be too late, but that's all. I don't feel super comfortable doing something, and I don't know that we can, I think it'd be difficult to pull together a meeting just for something that came out of left field.
I suppose, but the reason I brought this up and to talk about it is some 10 or 12 years ago, and Lily, you can correct my time frame, but there was discussion about them putting a gaming casino in down near Ravenna. And, but it wasn't tribal land yet at that point. Now, so I would like at least to know what their
Why-
area is.
Well,
if the
why-
map-
I find it interesting that why they're reaching out to us. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's their vested interest in, like, they didn't show up and, I don't know, maybe they did, but didn't go to Burbank and say, Burbank, write us a thing.
Well, I
They came
think-
here, so there's some kind of vested interest in this area.
The
I would think.
Tataviam tribe,
Was throughout the, the general area. right?
No, but this particular,
Yeah.
this group was San Gabriel specifically, and mainly on the south side, but we do know that there was a lot
A
of
presence.
business, well, there was a lot of business done between Ventura and with the Buenaventura
Yeah.
tribes, and the tribes further up in the Antelope Valley. So this was a major,
Yeah.
I don't know if there were.
It's a trade group.
That's the word I'm looking for. So I and I'm not even sure if their area would be over into our area, but it might, in which case maybe we should talk to them about it, because.
Yeah, it's just, because it's like so loud, I mean.
To be fair to them though.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that it dropped on
On
them.
them.
The Fed said, okay, we're gonna start this on December 15th, and it's a 90-day review period. So I think they're kind of
They're trying to
scrambling
scramble.
too, a little bit. So I don't wanna portray them as having delayed and just like reached out to us at last second, but he did send us information, which I haven't had a chance to look at.
Is this the same tribe that came and met with us at Blum Ranch for the high-speed rail? Remember when they came out in the big,
I wasn't there.
I was.
Oh, I don't know. It might have been, I don't know.
Okay.
I
I'll have to
don't
go
know.
back and look. That was.
That
I
might
think
be
that'd
a
be useful
factor
information,
too.
yeah, I think that'd be useful.
That was
So,
4 years ago.
do you regarding the concerns about a proposed film shoot, this was at the time it was proposed, it has since been done, and it reiterates the county's commitment to protect the community from undue noise insults, and that there would be a monitoring during the shoot. This is the whiskey something or other shoot that happened a few weeks ago.
Go down, yeah.
Her letter and the things she said in it they were a monumental first and a really good step in the right direction. I understand that Oscar Gomez was on site during the shoot, and I'm not aware of any complaints. The helicopter did not hover or even fly around. It just came, landed, stayed on the ground, and when the shooting was done, it flew away. So it was not the stuff that they had before with the coming buzzing, literally
Constantly.
Shambhala and all these explosions and everything. So that's how you work with the community on a film shoot, and so that was really good. In Director Bodek's letter, though, there is one thing. She said that a certain code section that I had cited doesn't apply to film shoots, but I do want to point out and make sure everybody's aware of this. When the zoning update, in January of last year, the county adopted the ZOOP, the Zoning Ordinance Update Program, where they just streamlined and renumbered things and made the Title 22 a lot more compact. There were supposed to be no substantive changes made. However, typographical errors occurred. And unfortunately, in this one section that I cited, there was a typographical error. And so the section I cited absolutely applies to film permits, because it did under the old code. But because they typed 040 instead of 030, the site the code it now references doesn't even exist, because it was supposed to be 030 C2, not 040 C2. So I've contacted Adrienne Eng from Regional Planning. She's the gal who's collecting all the typo reports. And she said she was going to research it and talk to Director Bodek about the requirements. So that was positive. Anyway, regarding Town Council's request to meet with our representative on the CPA Citizens Advisory Committee, the CPA spokesperson forwarded our request to our two representatives, Mr. Fromer and Ms. Hernandez. And the CPA person also asked if a conference call will suffice or if we want an in-person discussion. So put a pin in that for a second. CPA Board of Directors meetings on February 6th in downtown Los Angeles. Oddly enough, this meeting is being held in a municipality that's not even a member of CPA, so that's a little troubling. Also, a CPA spokesperson attended the Lake LA Town Council meeting last week and announced, I learned this at the ARTC, announced that CPA is not buying any renewable power from the Antelope Valley. Our concern has been that expanding and supporting utility scale generation and high voltage transmission of remote generation in rural areas to serve their urban customers. And Ms. Manos, who's a very lovely lady, she's been here and she's talked, the CPA gave Lake LA assurances that there are not any utility scale Antelope Valley power purchase agreements that they've executed. But I think that CPA does not actually know where the Antelope Valley is, because they signed a contract for more than 100 megawatts of power from a wind farm in Rosamond and a solar farm in Rosamond and a wind farm north of Rosamond. All that power will flow through Vincent here. The CPA, also disturbing, the CPA filed comments on the SB 100, which is the joint PUC and CEC and Air Resources Board effort to implement the 100% renewable law that Governor Brown signed into law. So the comments that CPA filed, and I attended the meeting in Diamond Bar on behalf of rural communities in general, and I said you need to stop doing this remote generation and high voltage transmission, because it's not, it doesn't fit into your own sustainability plan. No, you make energy where you use it, especially if you're in sunny Southern California. Anyway, so the CPA's comments on SB 100 talked about their distributed generation program, but when you actually look at the details on the program, they just came out in December, their focus is entirely on demand response programs and paying customers to allow CPA, so customers that have solar or are putting in solar or batteries, CPA wants to pay those customers to be able to drain their batteries to put the power out on the grid or use their solar.
Their excess.
Yes, exactly, which it already goes out on the grid. So what's really troubling about this is that there doesn't seem to be any actual movement towards installing actual distributed generation, and there certainly isn't any movement towards microgrid development, which is what you really need for self-sufficiency in the urban core. What's also silly about it is that without new distributed generation, it quickly becomes a zero-sum game, because the power that they put on the grid comes from draining their customers' batteries and taking from their customers' solar arrays. These batteries have to be recharged, and if they are, and if they are already taking all the excess solar from their customer, when the customer has no choice but to charge their battery at night via grid-fed power, so they're pulling power anyway. It's not really distributed energy resources.
It sounds good.
Yes, and I read the presentation given to the board, and they call it distributed energy resources, and then they said such as demand response, which is, if some of you have paid, are paid by Edison $70 a month to be able to allow them to turn your air conditioning off for a few hours during peak, that's what demand response is. I mean, this is, I've been up to my neck in these issues for 10 years now, so I know what I'm talking about. And it's really bothersome to me that we have been over and over asking them to really invest in distributed generation. And this is their 5-year plan, so I don't see any of this happening in the next 5 years. So in reality, it's not new generation, it's just shifted generation. So peak shifting is what they call it, or peak shaving.
Well, I was unimpressed by the guy that showed up last year.
Oh, for the...
It was before I was on the board, but I wasn't there, and he didn't really have anything that
I didn't think the message was getting through.
On what we were asking?
Yeah.
I appreciate,
everything he said sounded pretty, but when you asked him the question.
I appreciate the impulse, giving you lower cost power, but, it could be so much more. Like, they could put these things in the schools and give covered parking and make so much money in the summer because think about it, at the schools in July, they're not even on during peak power. All that power would go to the grid, every kilowatt hour, and they don't seem to be doing any of that or even moving in that direction. So I don't know what you guys want to do about that. they know we want to meet with them, and we've been asked, will a conference call suffice? That was the exact quote, will it suffice?
No.
So,
Will not suffice. I think we need to,
have them face to face.
yes,
Because it's just,
because
because we're impacted, maybe not by the solar farms, but all of that power
you have
comes
stuff
through our town.
flying through, yeah, and I think, Roberta's husband, what did he say? Doctor? Mr. Gelb.
Yes, Mr. Gilman, sorry.
Dr. Gelb. He made a good point actually at that, of saying, what could they do to help homeowners maybe install solar locally there? So not, I mean, beyond the schools and everything else, they're gonna have all these funds that they're supposed to be helping with this kind of stuff.
They do with it. Well, they've announced that, no, they announced it just a couple months ago for, they have grant programs for community-based organizations to do a lot of outreach to their communities.
Yeah, outreach, great, like, yeah.
Well, like for environmental justice and equity issues.
Yes, yeah, but my thing is like, how about practical issues, like,
Yeah.
hey, my power bill's too
You
high.
mean power issues?
Yeah.
Is there a power company?
Yeah, like, well, I mean, but practical, like, very practical application. Hey, electricity's really expensive in the summer because everybody's doing it. In fact, it's so bad that they will pay you to turn it off, like, right? Like, you'll pay for you to swelter in your home with air conditioning, right? So, what about doing things to offset that? Like, you know, and that's the thing I think that is not getting through, which is, hey, you have the ability
They do.
to actually make a real impact and difference. And instead, we're gonna talk about, you know, all the silly little things where we can throw money and go have somebody stand and we're gonna talk to people about it.
I'm not gonna say they're silly things, those are your words.
I will say that,
I'm just
I will
saying
say
what
that to
they're
them,
doing.
yes, yeah, it is silly. So, but no, I think we need to have, and I would like to hopefully get someone higher up the totem pole than the folks they sent last time who were like,
Well, what our request was, there's something called the Citizens Advisory Committee. I think that's what it is, I'm a little tired, sorry, I think that's what it is. And there are two people that represent unincorporated Los Angeles County.
they probably live down on the other side of the San Gabriel in,
Yeah,
yes.
I think this is kind of, I have this map here, I think this is interesting. So here is unincorporated Los Angeles County.
Yeah.
It's all the red, okay, so it's all, you guys have all seen this, right?
Mhm.
So like 90% of it is here up,
Yes.
right? And they have never been up
Little
here.
tiny baby red zone
Yeah,
down
they've
there, yeah.
never been up here. I mean,
Yeah.
so anyway, that's the people we reached out to, because CPA will send people out there, and they're good, they're nice. Allison Manos is a lovely lady, but I just don't know that they really understand the stuff they're being told by the policymakers isn't accurate. Like Alice, I think she really, I wasn't there, but we understand that they really are convinced that there's no utility scale energy being purchased in Antelope Valley. Well, I mean, you know, Rosamond is in Antelope Valley, and it's right on the border with Antelope Acres, so, anyway. So
I think we need to try to nail them down on a date, probably.
Okay,
I would guess probably.
Are we willing to drive down there? Because I don't think there's a snowball's chance we're gonna get anyone to come up here.
We could take them on tour and show them the power that doesn't exist that they're buying.
No,
No, you know what I mean, well, let me show you where the
desert looks like with solar panels.
Yeah.
Yeah, or, I think we make the ask.
See what they
I
say,
think
yeah.
you make the ask to come out here, and if that's a sticking point, we'll
Okay,
work
that's
from there.
fair.
But I think
Okay.
that, you know, we are sending them money. There are people in this community that we're switched to them by default, you
Yeah.
know, they had to opt out.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't an opt-in thing, so there are people that are sending them money from this community, and they ought to be willing to come out and,
Yes.
we're not asking them to do
Well,
something.
and also, most of the area they cover is here.
Here,
Seems reasonable. Okay, so wait, I'm not done with, I'm sorry, my
No, you're
announcements.
good. There's a lot of stuff.
All right, PlaceWorks. PlaceWorks has a grant to conduct water talks, and they have indicated an interest to present in Acton. They will provide information about wells and are also reaching out to District 37. They will contact us when they have a date for the event. According to their website, https://watertalks.csusb.edu. It's Cal State Santa Barbara. It's a grant program, state grant program, they're doing this. Water Talks is a public program designed to generate and increase community involvement in planning a sustainable water future for California. Its goal is to explore the strengths and opportunities of 128 communities in the Los Angeles and Ventura counties, facing ongoing economic and environmental distress, and to gather input to prioritize and recommend water-related projects based on issues of greatest concern.
Like trucking water.
Water Talks aims to ensure that regional water resource management considers the health, safety, welfare, and resiliency of lower-income community members. The ATC has not yet responded, but I'm not sure that a response other than, okay, sure, is warranted, because they're not seeking to present at a town council meeting. This came out of the WASC meeting.
I think we could respond back and say, the forum that the Acton Town Council has is the Acton Town Council meeting, and if you would like to come and...
No, they said they don't want to come.
They don't want to come in.
They want to have their own.
Okay, well,
And
enjoy
so,
it.
well, that's like, I guess I didn't put that in there, but it's...
We want to message you and tell you, we can't come to your thing, but like, we'd love to talk, okay?
Well, yeah, it's...
What do you mean they want their own meeting?
No, they're going to put up a meeting in Acton.
Oh,
And
okay.
we would,
okay.
I guess they want
inform
us
the
the
public.
words out
Yeah,
of it, but
okay.
it hasn't been scheduled. And the gal, okay, so this came out of the first WASC meeting I went to in November? I don't remember now. And Heather Miranda from City of Santa Clarita, she's with their water, in their public works department. That's probably not the name of the department.
No,
She
but
works
yeah.
on their water issues and stormwater. She came up to me and she said, hey, you're in Acton, we have this Water Talks program, could we present there? And I said, whenever people come and talk to us about water, it's never a pleasant thing. And so she emailed back, I'm sorry it hasn't worked out very well, but we'd really like to do this. I don't want to discourage people from coming out, so.
I don't, but, okay, this is my own opinion, but it's like, there's entirely too much money. If there's money to have people come talk to people who know there's a problem with water about the water problems, instead of the people who can actually change the water problem, but I don't know, approving CUPs for water haulers. Like, that's what's so ludicrous about this. It's like, hey, did you guys all know that we have a problem with water? Oh, there's like not enough water? Yeah? Oh, okay, well, we're gonna talk to you about it. Cool.
And about wells.
And about wells. Okay, but that actually does nothing for the community.
But I think that's what my understanding is, and at the risk of sounding like I'm putting words in their mouth, they want to hear what our concerns are.
Yeah. What are they doing with that?
But, well, see, that's the interesting thing. The people we'd be sharing this with
Can't no
don't have any...
saying anything. No, that's what I'm saying, they're not.
What was that?
Someone in the audience
That's
said
right.
that
That's right.
farm, was that a concern? I don't know who said that. That's weird.
Yeah.
All right, so
okay, yeah, I
other
think
than
it's
saying,
just
hey,
updates.
go for it, Will, as soon as it's scheduled, we'll put the
Yeah.
word out. But I did try to say, hey, you know what, water is a hugely touchy topic here, and
Yeah, I mean, on its face, I agree, like, hey, if they could have some impact, fantastic, we could tell them what all the problems are, but,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can we get the county to give our water haulers their CUPs?
Yeah.
If nothing else comes through, we'll just.
And I was gonna say, I'll bet you people that, you said Santa Barbara? You see Santa
Cal
Barbara?
State, well,
Cal
it's
State.
CSUSB, so I think it is.
CSU.
Oh, no, that's not Cal State, it's UC
San
Santa
Bernardino,
Barbara.
is it Cal State?
Oh, it must be
University of
San
San
Bernardino, okay, never
Oh,
mind.
they might know, I was gonna say, it might be a good idea to talk to them and say, hey, there's people here who rely on trucks carrying water in their house every month.
Yeah,
I don't know.
my terrified question for that is gonna be like, oh, cool, like, we could pass a bond, and then they could get pipes to everybody's house. I mean, that's usually like, it's not like a, hey, we do the practical thing that's already like worked for like forever. It's like, no, we're gonna jump to, we'll just throw more money at it, it'll be great. And you guys can pay for it, it's fantastic. But I don't know, I mean, I hope the best case scenario on this is that you get a new advocate that's like, hey, there's a problem here, we need to shine the light on it and do something. That's the best case. Do I think that's what's gonna happen? Probably not, but.
Well, you know what, I'll be honest, there have been enough times in my life where I go into something thinking it's going to be one way. And it turns out to be a totally awesome thing, that's why I keep going to these meetings. Because, every now and then, there's this diamond.
I like your eternal optimism.
Yep.
I like
No, I know, it's good, because it balances my pessimism right now, because I'm going like, it's not gonna help.
Oh, golly, okay. I just don't want it to kick us in the backside.
No, yeah. Well, do you see, okay, so maybe, look.
Do I see how it could back?
Yeah.
If we tell them there's water hauling, well, that's a bad idea. And
Yeah,
then they go
yeah.
around saying, you
You
shouldn't
have
have.
water
I know,
Yeah.
that's happened too.
I
Things
believe
have turned left
Yeah.
as much as they've turned right too, so. Anyway, okay, we received a notice from Metro about their next-gen plans for their bus systems. It talked about upcoming workshops in our community. When you click on it, you see that our community extends all the way to Van Nuys, because that's where the closest workshop is. However, if you want information,
That's from that lady in Van Nuys wanting help.
I think she's in Sherman Oaks. I didn't even put that in.
No, I looked, it was.
Van Nuys?
Van Nuys. I know exactly where she's talking about, that's why.
She wanted help from us to figure out what to do about them cutting down.
There's a
all the
hotel
trees.
cutting down trees. This email just comes in, quick detour. Email comes in and she's like, there's a hotel and they're cutting down the trees. I want to know.
King mentioned it, but there is the first ever Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District Talent Show presented by ASMO in collaboration with VHS Vasquez High School Performing Arts. The show is Thursday, February 6th at 6:30. If you can go, I'm going to try.
Are you performing? Are you performing?
Oh, no.
You're the woman of the year, you
I could
gotta
just-
perform.
I could just type. Let me watch. Okay, so, okay, I think that's it, yeah.
A lot of stuff. All right, council member comments.
I just wanted to, let you guys know that this new thing that we got the email from Kelly.
Okay, I was gonna, yeah.
Okay, but go ahead.
No.
What new thing?
Well,
So
we've got some,
We have the filing, tax filing, we have that we have to do. So Ruthie emailed just a reminder and she offered to assist.
Oh, that's nice.
So we probably need to figure out who, we have till April, I think.
Mhm.
But obviously we want to, April will be here faster than we can
Yes.
blink. But we probably need to figure out.
I was hoping that maybe Kelly could do it with her since I
I
explained to
think
you
so.
why I can't
No,
get
I
involved
know.
right now.
Well, and I know Kelly has the stuff.
Yes, she
It was handed out
does.
to her. That I don't want to just like, without her here discussing.
No,
I don't
no,
wanna-
I-
Yeah.
So let's
But-
put it on the agenda for next month.
Yes, we will do that.
When did this email come in?
2 days ago.
Yeah,
I thought I went through all the emails. Okay, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
So
So,
I think it was on Sunday, so I.
it was Sunday
maybe-
morning, because there was a hodgepodge, but no, 100%, we will find a place where it needs to look. And I think we need to document, like, what we do to do the thing. Like, whatever we have to do to file it, it should be in a,
And she went through this whole lengthy process to get it
to
done.
get it done. Yeah.
So she's got all the, if somehow we can convince Ruthie to maybe even do it for her, I don't know. I just know
don't know that it wouldn't be, I don't know that she wouldn't be willing to, I mean, she seems very willing to help
Yeah.
it, so.
Yeah.
So I just.
Which I
just want-
appreciate.
I just can't,
Commend her, because
until I get done with this court stuff, I just.
totally understand, so.
And then the other thing that I wanted to say is that several of us went to a meeting with, and Raylene was there, where Mike Garcia introduced himself and told us about his run for the U.S. Congress, because we are not represented right now because of Katie Hill resigning. So Acton and Agua Dulce and the extended district is not represented at the U.S.
He was here
Congress.
at town council, but he didn't speak. He was here at the.
Was he?
At the Edison.
He was here at the Edison one.
Yeah.
He's come because he's still running, but he hasn't actually spoken. He's gone to a couple of the Agua Dulce ones, and he just sat in the audience and kind of like listened and see what's going on.
Well, his person,
Yeah.
the guy, the
Yeah.
contact guy, emailed us and asked if he could present at the town council meeting, and I
Oh, I
emailed back.
missed that.
This
It's
was
a
like
while
2
ago,
months ago,
yeah.
and I said,
It was
we,
before-
by our bylaws, we have to be apolitical, we can't
Yeah.
advocate one candidate over another, but I said,
Welcome
please
to-
ask him to come and talk during the public comment period, because I wasn't able, I had signed up to go to that candidate forum, but I couldn't go that day, so I don't know if you were able to go.
I was there.
But I have not heard all the candidates. I don't know what, half the candidates I've never even heard of. Some of them apparently don't even live here.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I would love to hear from what the candidates' perspectives are. And you know.
Well, the interesting thing I'll just one
So
second.
when we were at that fundraiser, February 8th.
Again, and of course Buck McKeon was there. He flew in from Virginia.
Oh, he was there?
Yeah.
Oh.
To support Mike Garcia. And I knew part of this, but George Soros contributed a tremendous amount of money to Katie Hills.
And so did Bloomberg.
And so did Bloomberg. And she ended up having $30 million to spend versus the $2 million that Steve Knight had. So this district is pretty important to that group of people for some reason.
To George Soros?
George Soros wants
And
to make
Bloomberg.
sure.
Well, because they were trying to flip it, which they did,
Yes,
but
they
now.
did.
Because they want the house.
Yeah, they want
to keep the house now.
They want to keep the house. So all these, how many districts did they say there was? Like 25 of them? That they're putting a tremendous amount of money into to try to retain these districts. And so I'm just saying, somehow, I know we can't do anything, but.
I would just say that we can suggest people that they pay attention, be active, and
Yeah, and I didn't know about all these upcoming events, but that sounds good to me.
What I didn't realize, except when I went to that one in Lancaster, whatever that was, just because I wasn't following it that close, but March 3rd, the voting is for who's going to go there for 6 months, and also who's going to be on the ballot in November, so it's almost like you have to vote twice.
You do have to vote twice.
You know what I mean? It's 2 votes.
That is 2 votes.
Yeah.
And people will get confused about it, and they
And I
explain
think
that
there's a
that
reason why
night.
that was done, but.
Well, they have to fill the rest of Katie Hills.
Yeah, but they could have done that earlier, I think, in my
Yes.
opinion.
Right.
no, they could have.
The
They wanna
governor
make
could have
it-
set up a different time, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's what
So
I'm
we
saying.
just, I think the whole
Yeah.
idea of the amount of money that was spent in these communities, $30 million, to get her elected, was incredible to me.
97% of the money came from
Out of area, yeah.
Yeah, 3% came from
within the
locally.
Yeah.
So 97% of 30 million. That's a chunk of change. Anyway,
There's
that was,
other candidates who are, there's a gal by the name of Cho who is going for,
Just assembly.
I think she's going for Christy Smith.
Yeah, assembly.
Yeah.
Because she's running for.
She's going, Christy Smith is going for Congress, and Cho is going for the vacated seat.
yeah, Chrissy Smith is one of the ones that's running against.
For Katie Hill's spot,
Yeah.
Mhm.
the 25th.
She wants to be in Congress.
Mhm.
And then there's another lady by the name, excuse me, by the name of Lucy, and I don't remember.
She spoke at Aguadilce at the
And
town
pardon?
council. She spoke at the Aguadilce town council.
So does Aguadilce have candidates come? Their
It was
bylaws.
kind of like hey, I'm running for whatever.
Oh, so
this
it's
is."
public comment, okay.
It wasn't exactly, she was on the agenda. She had her own little time slot.
Oh, wow.
There is an acting resident running for assembly. Suzette Foyardis is from Acton and is running for assembly.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Suzette Foyardis, P-A-L-L-A-R-D-E-S.
She's running for assembly?
Assembly, yeah.
Mhm.
State
For Christy
assembly.
Smith, yeah, Christy Smith.
Oh.
She lives in Acton.
And she lives in Acton.
I have no idea who that is,
Well, if you know these people, ask them to come during public comment.
but they only get 2 minutes and they probably.
Yeah, but we have dynamic back and forth.
We have not had
First
2
thing I
minutes.
asked them is about the.
2 minutes.
You guys don't have a little light
We
that
have
tell
the
them to get off the
longest 2
stage?
minutes.
I know, yeah.
Come to Acton, 2
Stop
minutes.
talking.
I got the shepherd's crook.
Yeah,
All right. Anything else?
no, I'm good. That's-
Well, I'm going to cite my most favorite quote of all time, and it's by Dr. Martin Luther King. But before I do that, I'm just going to say that I am tired of partisan politics. I'm tired of not getting anything good done, and
Yeah.
I'm just worn out by, we do so much work, and and we're not partisan. We can get a lot of work done if you're not partisan. My son is going through U.S. history, and I work with him on his schoolwork, and I I am reminded of George Washington's, when he left office, partisan politics didn't exist. There were no parties at that point. Everybody made a decision in terms of what was going to be best for the country, not what was going to be best for their party. And his words, he said,